So I was talking to someone recently about entities, and they're starting to get a little scared. And I was saying, there's no reason to be afraid of entities. Entities serve you. So, on the one hand, yes, I do see entities as servants of evil, meaning they carry out tasks that test your boundaries, try to destroy your boundaries, try to bring you down and cause you to feel shame and guilt and fear and anger and sadness because these things feed them. But what does this do? What happens when there's some sort of force that is trying to bring you down, trying to push you outside of consent? It helps you define yourself. It helps you realize who you are. Many people, when I teach them boundaries, I ask them, okay, how do you feel your boundaries? What are boundaries? What do you think they are, etc. Usually the first thing people say is, well, I don't know when I'm in my boundaries, but I know when I'm out of my boundaries because I don't feel good. I'm like, good. That's a start. Obviously, strengthening the feeling of knowing when you're in your boundaries is the next thing to do. But do you see that if the entities weren't pushing you outside of your boundaries, you wouldn't know what they are? So I use this example a lot of a flower. So how does a flower know if it's within its boundaries? And my explanation is that it's in its highest vibrational outcome. So if you have an orchid, then it needs to be in some sort of like swampy, kind of humid, tropical situation, a little bit of shade, maybe growing on a tree or something like that. If you take that orchid and you put it in a more arid climate, closer to what would benefit a cactus, then the orchid would be outside of its boundaries. What if the orchid does not know it's an orchid? What if the orchid knows it's a flower, but does not know what kind of flower? So it needs to test itself all over the world to figure out who or what it is. So the best way it knows is when it feels like bad. So it's like in the Sonora Desert, I'm like, I don't feel so good here. That probably means that the situation that benefits a cactus doesn't benefit you. So you're probably not a cactus. So very similarly, entities help us define ourselves. They serve their purpose. And in some ways, you can just say that they are the Sonora Desert to an orchid. Is the Sonora Desert inherently bad? Of course not. Of course not. It's just bad for an orchid who doesn't know who she is. And that's essentially most humans. We don't know exactly who we are. We know that we're human, and we want to have some kind of life that gives us pleasure and some sort of meaning, right? Meaning is the most important. If you're a human, you probably want to have meaning in your life. But you don't know what means something to you unless you know what your boundaries are, unless you know what your true self is, what your true frequency is. And entities are so well equipped to testing you and pushing you outside of your boundaries and testing you that they almost like show your path to you, So like imagine that you're a hero on a hero's journey. Again, you're like the flower. You're like, I'm a hero, but I don't know what journey. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know who's the bad guy. I don't know what thing I'm supposed to do and come back with. Am I supposed to save the girl? Am I supposed to find a dragon, a pot of gold? I don't know what I'm doing. The entities will show you. You know why? Because they're going to try and get you down exactly on the path that you're supposed to take. So, if you're feeling a lot of shame about something, then most likely your true self has a lot of confidence. If you're feeling really lazy and guilty about something, then maybe your true self has had a lot of responsibility in the past and wants to take a break in this lifetime. A lot of times our true selves are the opposite of our egos. And our egos are the ones that get attacked by the entities, not our true selves. When you're your true self, this is just my opinion, you can take it or leave it. When you're your true self, even if an entity tries to attack you, they're not very successful because you're in your power. So an entity can only get you when you refuse to be in your power. If in your power, you kind of have nothing to worry about. So that's my take. You're the one in control, no worries. If you want to be afraid, that's a choice. And you're allowed to make that choice. But then I see you choose suffering over freedom or enlightenment or liberation or relaxation or being your true self. And then that means you're choosing evil. And again, that's a valid choice. But if you choose to be victim to entities rather than taking your place as their being your servants, then you've made a choice to live your life a certain way in this lifetime. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so I hope this helped. This was an interesting talk. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.